Hey gang, Jeff here with missionmusician.com and mixpractice.com, and I'm going to continue in our mixing fundamental series, kind of getting back to the basics here. The first part was balance. This part's going to be fix. So what do I mean by fix? Well, there are just tons of things to talk about as far as fixing goes. If you mix for any length of time, you'll know that any session that you get, there's going to be a problem in there somewhere. There could be something out of time. There could be something out of tune. There could be some kind of musical flub. There could be some glitches. There could be just a whole host of things. There could be, so many tracks where, some of the stuff just doesn't work for the mix, and you have to, as a mixing engineer, you have to sift through all that stuff and decide what is going to work for the mix. So you have to actually kind of fix things before you start mixing. And I actually do start the fixing process before I throw on any kind of plugins. So for this song, we're going to continue with using I Will from Laurence Olivier featuring Janice Merritt. And we're going to talk about what I thought needed fixing in this mix. Now, for the most part, all the tracks are clean. Nothing's really out of time. Nothing's really out of tune. There's nothing that sounds harsh or boomy or muddy. Well, there are things that sound muddy. But for me, the biggest problem with this mix, with the tracks that I received, there's a couple. One, and we'll get to this in a minute, as you can see, the vocal here is kind of quiet here. Like if I played it right here, I'm not sure you would hear the vocals. Let's just listen.
I will build you a strong house to spare you heartache.
So that's not as loud as it should be, because let's listen to when we get here.
For your everlasting soul.
So that's loud enough there, and it's loud enough through the rest of the song. Now, does it need compression? Of course it does. But what's going to happen if I compress this part of the song? It's going to really squash these down, and it's going to sound over compressed. So a real simple fix for this is just to come in here, and if you don't have Pro Tools, you can use a trim plugin and just raise it up before it hits the plugins or the faders, and just kind of make sure it's loud enough. So this is just a simple fix. Let's listen to this.
I will build you a strong house to spare you heartache, and to keep you from drowning a sturdy new boat.
Okay, now again, what's going on in my mind is I listen to a sturdy new boat. I believe that's the phrase. It kind of drifts off, right? Let's see.
New boat.
You hear that little grumble in his voice there? I really like to bring those type of things up. So I would use automation to do that. And a real quick example of that would be I would just throw this on volume automation, and I would put a couple of these little nodes here, and I would just bring that up so it could be heard. I may even have to go on a little further. That was too much. Right, so I can hear everything. Now, compression may bring that out, and I may be jumping the gun here, but I'm just kind of explaining what's going on in my head when I hear these type of things. Let's see. That's what I'm listening for. what I have to fix. So it's always in the back of my mind the things that I have to fix. All right, so we kind of fixed this vocal in the intro and brought it up. But to me, the major problem in this song, let me zoom in here, is the drums. So let's listen to the drums with the whole song.
In the old house I built you. Will you one day go home? One day go home.
Now, when I initially started mixing this, I thought, well, let me put some EQ and some compression on and just try to control the drums as best I can. So let's do that really quick and see what happens. Let's just let's just go stock EQ. Let's solo these here. And you probably heard that right there. That instantly told me that I have to do something with the drums. Because whatever that tom hit was, it sounded funky. But let's continue to EQ this really quick. All right, let's just say that was good. And it's not necessarily good, but it's better, at least I think. Let's just check. Whoops. All right, so it's a little bit more open. So let's try to compress it a little bit. Let's just try the Bomb Factory for the fun of it. Let's do fast attack, fast release, just to try to control the transients a little bit. All right, so the Bomb Factory is probably not the best route to go on that. But either way, I could tell right away that in order to make this a pro-sounding mix, I was going to have to do something with the drums, right? And that's what you got to face too. What do you have to fix in the mix to make it a professional-sounding mix? Now, the rest of the instruments, they all sound fine. They need EQ. They need compression, but I don't have to fix anything, really. Everything's pretty much good besides EQ and compression. So let me pause the video, and I'm going to show you how I fix these drums. I'll be right back. All right, so let's listen to, the original drums, and then I'll bring in what I did to make them sound better. right? So a tremendous difference. So I'm not going to go into detail exactly what I did. All I can tell you is, or what I'm going to tell you is I used Slate's trigger and Slate's SSD4, and I had to create a kick drum, which I did here. I created a kick in and a kick out and a kick sub kick. I created a snare top and snare bottom, right? So this should sound like a snare bottom. Yeah, so snare bottom. I used trigger to create the tom hits, and especially where that one part was where it was really funny sounding, I had to actually create a little ride hit right here. Right, so all this is doing is just one little ride hit. Right, and I had to try to pitch it correctly to the original drum. So let's just listen to what that does. So it's pretty close, right? So if you listen to this part by itself, so the ride cuts off. It sounds really funny. Now let's do it with the ride hit in. So it's not perfect, but in the context of the mix, you can't really tell. So I created some room sounds using a kick room, right? Then a snare room. Let me take that off. And then even a tom room. Right? Let's see. I created some overheads using a kick overhead, a snare overhead, and a tom overhead. So the point I'm trying to make here, it's not how you do it, it's that you do it. Whatever you need to fix to make the mix sound professional, that's what you got to do. That's your job. Now, if you go back to the artist and say, hey, I can't make it work with what I got, that's one thing. You can try to do that, but you may or may not get more work from that guy if you do that. What you got to do is, and let me preface this with saying, there'll be times when you just can't make it work. That the recording's either really bad, excuse me, or, the session's jumbled. There's too many things out of time. I've had cases where I've had to go back to the artist and say, look, this stuff is so far out of time, I can't make sense of it. Can you kind of put it in time for me, and then I can mix it? And I find that as long as you just be honest and go at it the approach that, you want to make the best possible mix for the client, then, I find that it's pretty easy to work with people that way. So this, Lawrence sent me the first song he wanted to mix, and right away, that had a stereo drum track in it, and right away I knew I was going to have problems with the rest of the songs. I even emailed him and told him, hey, is this the only tracks you have? And he said, yeah, it's just a stereo track. So I knew right away that I was going to have to create some way to control the drums so I could make them make a professional mix out of it. Hope that makes sense. So let me just play you a little bit of this without the drums, which is going to sound funny because this drum volume is, the originals are down pretty low, but let's play it and then I'll bring in the drums.
I will kiss you goodbye, 'cause I know you can't stay. I will swallow
So you really hear the kick disappear there. I don't think that I did a snare rim shot. Let's see here. Well, I guess I did. All right, let's get to the part where the drums are really up here. All right.
And the old house I built you. Will you one day come home?
Now the cymbals and stuff I'm getting from here. I didn't make any cymbal hits or anything like that other than the ride hits you hear here. So I felt that I could get enough of the cymbals and even enough of the original drum sound in there and just blend everything around there. So when you think about fix, you have to think about things that sound out of time, things that sound out of tune, musical problems, mistakes, flubs. How are you going to fix it? What are you going to do to fix that? Is there too many tracks in the song? Do you need to narrow it down? Will it sound better without those tracks? Just questions like that. Are there glitches that you got to take care of from poor editing? I find I have to do that a lot. A lot of artists, when they record their own stuff, they don't really pay much attention to, if they overdubbed here, and there's a glitch going from here to here. They don't pay a lot of attention to that stuff. So a lot of times, as a mixing engineer, I have to fix that stuff. I have to make sure that doesn't show up once compression's on, once a limiter's on. That stuff will rear its ugly head very quickly. So that's it for fix. In our next video in this series, we're going to probably kind of loop, enhance, and shape together because they kind of work together. Now, I'll say one other thing. When I'm mixing, I may not get every fix right away as I start to mix or before I actually start to mix. So there may be some stuff that I have to come back and fix. Like I said, it's not a step-by-step kind of formula here. It's just kind of a circular thing. I'm always adjusting balances. I'm fixing where I need to. I'm enhancing, shaping, and then rinse and repeat. And then what I'll do at the end is I'll start throwing on space. I'll start putting the song into a space. So in the next video, we'll talk about enhancing and shaping and how those kind of go hand in hand. All right, so thanks for watching, and I will see you in another video real soon. Bye-bye.